Good morning, good morning, good morning, all of you beautiful nerds from around the world, and welcome to the morning stream here on the Den of Nerds Live, the very best way to start your nerdy day. On today's show, we're talking about that Secret Invasion Disney Plus show. Holy crap. A lot of Marvel news came out yesterday, and we're going to be dropping several videos on the main channel about some really cool things that came out yesterday about Marvel, but we're going to go over that Secret Invasion scoop. Plus, Trinity from 2nd Street Marvel is joining the show. We're going to break down for you guys some of the most interesting differences between Marvel Comics and the MCU. That's going to be a really fun discussion just to kind of get you through another new comic book day with no real new comics. I'm very happy to have Trinity on the show. It's going to be a good show. Missed you guys yesterday, man. How's everybody doing? Bunch of beautiful faces in here, man. Let's see. We've got Yinzer Jim, Mr. Deed, Jason's here, Gray Dawn, Stormbreaker, Mr. Deed, I said it again, Jordan, Star Wars Santa, Stormbreaker, of course, Sam Shills, Star Wars Santa, Coachella Coastal, Fanjecture in the house, M. Serpa, Mike Porter, Wu-Tang Wells, Steve Denton. What is going on, everybody? How are we doing? Like Johnny Carson, he doesn't always host his show. Yeah, and Chet, I must say, you were typing really loudly. Yeah, I know. In the intro, when people were... Yeah, you were typing like super loud. I could see people talking about it. So you got to watch that. You got to watch that stuff, man. How's everybody doing, man? Ah, man, I missed you guys yesterday. A lot of work to do. It's so wild, man. I was like, okay, I'm going to knock out a bunch of, work. I'm going to take the morning show off. And then I watched as just crazy Marvel thing after crazy Marvel thing happened. And I'm like, I could probably do a video about that. I'm like, no. We'll cover it tomorrow. I got to get this work done. Absolute craziness. But how are you guys, man? Fury Files coming to... Yeah. Atmospheric here in the last minute prep, though. Yeah. Remember to turn into Hulk and smash that like button. Yeah, if you guys could smash that like button, that would be absolutely fantastic. Holy cow, man. This music's got me feeling good. Got me feeling good in the morning. Turn it up, Chet. Turn it up, baby. Woo! Amen. Wednesday, man. Wednesday. New comic book day. Where's the new comic? What's on your pull list, Chet? I know. It's a joke. Whatever. All right, Chet, kill the music. Let's get right into this. This is it's pretty wild stuff. I want to break this down. Some of the stuff we've already been talking about. Some of the other stuff is new. Here we go. It's the craziest news of the day. Yo, this news is crazy. Oh, yes. Crazy news. Strange things are afoot at the Circle K, Ted. We got this tweet up for you right here. Now, Vicky is a writer from Geeks Worldwide. She says here in a tweet, got confirmation that the Sword series is in fact titled Secret Invasion and will lead into Captain Marvel 2. Can expect it to be one of the 3 to 4 Disney Plus series that will be announced, likely to film sometime next year, as it has been greenlit for production, but no word on that yet. Now, she's a writer for Geeks Worldwide. I don't know too much about her, right? So I was curious as to if there were anything else that was going to pop up out there on the interwebs and sort of corroborating this story, and it turns out there was. This right here was posted on Atlanta Filmmaking or Atlanta Filming, their Instagram. If you don't follow Atlanta Filming, they do a lot of scooping, getting crazy set photos and different things like that. Probably have a lot of good sources in Atlanta. where a lot of Marvel productions are shot. They put this up on their Instagram yesterday, sort of teasing the Secret Invasion saga and how that news coming from Vicky was likely true. And then the cherry on top, ladies and gentlemen, good friend of the channel, Charles Murphy, came out and corroborated not only Vicky's scoop, but also Tom's scoop. Tom had a scoop yesterday as well about Ironheart. We're going to do a separate video about that and talk about Ironheart in that series as well. And what do you know? Right under Charles Murphy, contributor for the Den of Nerds, has a bunch of backlogged articles which you are all going to enjoy very soon. Stormbreaker himself. What's going on, Stormbreaker? Look, you're famous. You're right under Charles Murphy. It'd be cool if I could get him to maybe like your tweets back. Maybe I'll talk to him about that sometime. So, folks, that is the craziness. Chat, put me back in the chatting. Look, we had already sort of known that this was a thing, right? Or at least we had suspected. A lot of other people, I believe Daniel Richtman was one of the people that were talking about this. The Sword series is going to be titled Secret Invasion, and it will lead right into Captain Marvel 2. Now, just briefly, I want to talk about how this all fits together with some stuff that we already know or we think we know about Captain Marvel 2, the MCU, and things like that, okay? So, number one, we just learned from a scoop from Jeremy Conrad that Captain Marvel 2 is going to set up the status quo for the next Avengers movie, okay? So, it'll be similar to the way that Civil War sets up the status quo for Infinity War and Endgame. Big things will happen in that sets up the status quo. Now, I was already operating under the impression that, you know, with this in mind, that the Secret Invasion show will likely lead into it, that we're setting up a MCU version of Secret Invasion, and that will be the status quo going into whatever the next big Avengers thing is. Maybe the Ultimatum event that Jeremy scooped, maybe something else. Who knows? We've also heard some plot leaks that seem a little bit more viable now that talk about the Brood and how the Brood are going to be the MCU's version of the Secret Invasion, like the Skrull, the same way that the Skrull did Secret Invasion in Marvel Comics will indeed be the way that they do it in the MCU. And there's even a possibility here that the Brood are going to only infect males. And this is the backdoor in for your A-Force version in Marvel Comics, that the females will have to step up because the Brood is only infecting males and taking over them in sort of like a parasitic way. Pretty cool, pretty interesting. But yeah, that seriously looks to be the plan now more than ever. Secret Invasion out in space with Sword. I love this. It comes in sort of a first contact thing, and this invasion first wave hits the Sword station. Possibility that Nick Fury's involved in that. There's no word on that. If yes, I'm just speculating. My man down there, likely to be involved. Leading into a Captain Marvel 2, which will deal with what is set up in that series, likely. Which will then lead into the next Avengers movie, the status quo of the Avengers. What I think it'll be is a lot of distrusting, or the end of Captain Marvel 2 ends with my main man, Norman Osborn, destroying the Brood, or at least appearing to be the one that destroys the Brood, and then being held up by the governments of the world as our savior, leading to Dark Avengers! That's right, I'm still on Dark Avengers. I'm not getting off it. That's what I want. But we'll see. That might not happen either. But yeah, that's kind of the news, folks. Pretty wild stuff. Pretty wild stuff. I want to know what you think about this. I'll look at some things going on here in the chat. But I'm also going to bring in Trinity in just a minute here. And we will talk to him about Trinity. I sent you the link on Twitter, my friend, just so you know. And we will get him in here to see his opinions of things as well. But let's see here. I want to go into the chat, man. Shot time. I'm going to go into the chat and just see. Wow, what a day to have Second Stream Marvel on. Perfect timing. Indeed. Indeed it is. Get your love sauce all over that like button. Yeah, man, get your love sauce on that like button. I like that, Jason. That's an interesting way to put it. That's for sure. Let's see. I want to see if anybody else has anything crazy that they're thinking. Let's see here. Too early to take that Dark Avenger shot. And Thunderbolts. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So Fury Files is a hoax, Burke the Nerd? No, Fury Files is not a hoax. The thing about Fury Files is, as I did more research on it, I'm not sure that it's even in the MCU. I think it might just be like a Marvel kind of a thing. And they've actually done versions of Fury Files already, like on YouTube, for like Marvel shows and Marvel comics. And the report was really weird in that it included the possibility of Disney XD shows showing up on that as well. And I am really not so sure about that. I don't think the Fury Files was a big deal. I mean, it was one of the things that slipped in yesterday, but I honestly do not think that it was that big of a deal. That's just my opinion on that one. But, folks, let's go ahead and bring Trinity in to the stream. Dude, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. I'm so happy to have you here, man. Let's see if this.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
This thing is working, Chet. Oh, we got him. We got him up. Nicely done, Chet. Nicely done. So, Trinity, first question, man. What do you think about this Secret Invasion scoop, man?
Man, it's interesting. It's interesting. There's so much going on right now with the MCU. I'm into it, man. Like we need to go there. They've got access to all the characters except for those handful. The I don't know what they call it, man.
Yeah, the Spunk or the Smucks universe, the Sony Smucks universe, something like that.
Yeah, they've got access to all these characters. I mean, it's time. I mean, what's the saying? Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah, man.
Something like that.
Yeah, man. I'm with you there.
That's where we're at. It's time to just jump in head first, you know.
Yeah. Now, what do you think about them? Because like my big hang up on the Captain Marvel movie was the Skrulls and them being like good. And now, like, you know, look, there's nothing in Vicky's report so far that indicates the Brood thing, but that was another leak that came out that now seems all the more plausible. How would you feel about the Brood sort of taking the place of the Skrulls from the comics? Like, again, we're going to get into the comics versus MCU discussion, but this is another example of that. What would you think of that?
I think it's definitely a good idea, but the one thing that I think about everything when it comes to the Skrulls is we basically last time we seen them was basically clear back in the 90s. We did okay. I mean, of course, we did see Spider-Man in Spider-Man Far From Home. We seen Talos and his wife, but at the same time, how do we know that maybe they're some of the only remaining faction of Skrulls left that are good? Maybe the rest of them went bad.
Yeah.
But definitely bringing the Brood in kind of that place. Definitely, I mean, it works. It would definitely work, I think. And and obviously change it up how the MCU seems to do everything from the comics anyway. Just kind of switches it up from the source material a little bit.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. I mean, so the one thing that I think is interesting about it is like if they're sort of parasites and they're taking over the male bodies. The one thing that actually is kind of more interesting about that than the Skrulls is like you can't just kill them then, right? You know what I mean? Like if they're in these bodies, then you can't just kill them or like maim them or hurt them. So there'll be this sort of other aspect to it where, you know, the female heroes are trying to stop the powerful male heroes that are, you know, parasitically infected or whatever, but like they can't just kill them. So like that seems kind of interesting to me, but like I don't know, man. One of the things that was really enjoyable in that Secret Invasion comic book run was like trying to figure out who's a Skrull and who's not, and like watching the abhorrent behavior of some of the Skrull people, like Dum Dum Dugan, and like at the beginning and all the crazy stuff that he's doing. And I don't know, so I liked that aspect of it, as well as when the heroes met their Skrull selves in the Savage Land, and they had the fight like Spider-Man on Spider-Man and shit like that. So that's something that would be sort of missing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Do you think that it still plays? Like, it'll still be as enjoyable? Or do you think, nah, fuck that. They should just do the scrolls?
I mean, they should. I mean, I'm I'm of the opinion they should do not exactly what the comics did, but they should keep it there with the source material. Switching it up, I'm okay with. I mean, as long as it's good, as long as it's good and it makes sense. That's what really matters to me. But then it makes me wonder, like even with that leak with the Captain Marvel thing, it makes me wonder if they just inhabit the bodies of men and that's what they're doing. And really, all these heroes are kind of not out to kill anybody in the first place. But I think one thing that would be cool is, where obviously they know that they inhabit men. And what if it actually turns out that they inhabit women too? And however they found out about it was a lie, and it was actually kind of a more widespread thing than they had thought in the first place.
Yeah, dude, that would be really interesting. They could do something like where maybe the male brood can get into the male species, but there are like female brood that can get into females, because that would be really interesting where like they think they have it figured out, and then there's the A Force working together, but then one of them has turned and is sort of working against the rest of them. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Yeah,
That would be
exactly.
dope, dude. Yeah, I'd be definitely into that. But yeah, I mean, like, I guess my overall thing is, it's cool. I mean, look, I think it's really cool. You watch sort of like Feige's mind work in real time when you uncover some of these things and the scoops, and it's just like, I mean, that is a really cool idea to start out in Sword. This invasion's coming, and it first touches that base out there. I'm getting some Alien One vibes. You know what I mean? Like they're all on this like space station, and somebody's trying to escape, or they're trying to beat these things. Like, that's really cool. I like that element to it. But yeah, then leading into Captain Marvel and then setting up the status quo after that is really really interesting. So yeah, no, like, I'm glad to get your take on that. But let's talk comics, man. It's New Comic Book Day. You're the
I've got,
comic book guy. What
I do
I
have to
mean,
say that
comic
what
books.
you just what you just said right there. I hate to interrupt you, but what you just said right there, actually, kind of about the brood was kind of interesting. About a space station and everything, kind of makes me think of the Fantastic Four.
Ooh, okay,
Maybe
yeah.
maybe a way somehow they were part of all that, and I don't know. It just like like that just kind of went off in my brain as you were saying. I was like I was exploding. It was exploding.
Hey, dude, dude. That's cool. And I actually saw Stormbreaker. I think said something in the chat about Annihilus. Could Annihilus be connected to the Brood? Be connected to the Fantastic Four?
Oh, very much so. Yeah. Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
No, that's some spicy sauce, man. That's some spicy sauce. We might have to whip up a little theory video or something about that, which would be really cool. But let me just ask you this: when we get into comic book talk, our comics aren't back yet, correct? I saw that DC maybe had something going on, and then there's something going on with Walmart and comics too, but they're not officially back until the 27th, unless I'm mistaken. Is that right?
That's correct. I know I was in my LCS last week, and that like pretty much like everything seems to move in such real time now. Like when something happens, like it as soon as as soon as the hat drops, you know it.
Yeah.
People out there know it, and that news kind of came out last week about them getting ready to. I think the original date was they were thinking the 20th, but I think it's going to end up being the 20. Yeah, a week later on the 27th. Because I went into my LCS and that's what he was. The owner was saying. He was like, "Hey man, we just got an email from Diamond. They're going to be sending them out and everything." So he was pretty excited about that.
Uh-oh, lost you for a second.
Oh,
Are you still there? Yep, we got you. Just lost you for a hot second, but you're good. You were saying
oh,
the
okay.
tail end of it.
Oh, yeah. So they are bringing the new comics back, and they did start doing apparently they're doing sidekicks at Walmart. They're doing releasing some comic books, but it's not like the Marvels and the DCs or anything like that. They are I believe they were books that were originally crowdfunded, from what I've heard,
Yeah.
that are there, and they came out yesterday. We're supposed to be out of stores. I was actually going to go check out my local Walmart to see if they got them in. And DC has been doing some digital releases. I'm not sure what they did the past couple of weeks, but I know yesterday definitely some new comics came out, because I did read Hawkman issue number 23,
Cool.
and then today, Neon Future issue number 6 comes out.
Dude,
So
I got to get on Neon Future. I mean, like, we're both big fans of Bill Yu, and you've been telling me about Neon Future for a while, and I just need to do it. I just need to get on it and do that because you've spoken very highly of his stuff, and I'm a huge fan of Tom. And isn't he like a sort of a DJ or like an artist or something? Like the guy that did the art, isn't he like he's from something other than comics, correct?
it's actually Steve Aoki. Yeah, he's actually like one of the co-writers of it.
Oh, okay.
Like him and Tom Bilyeu came up with the idea, and then they got Jim Kruger to help write the story and everything and the script for the first volume. And now I believe in the second volume, it's just Tom Bilyeu himself.
Nice. That's cool. Well, maybe he cut his teeth on some stuff and feels a little more confident now. You know what I mean? But let's talk.
Yeah, and
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
do know one thing that they're starting to do is they're wanting to like Impact Theory, and I really only learned about this because a viewer on my channel actually said something in a video I did on Impact Theory's newest series, Hexagon, and he was telling me that Tom Bilyeu actually said that they're moving away from print and going digital only, and I went and read this interview, and that's kind of what it sounded like, but they are still going to be releasing. They're going to release all the single issues on digital, and they're looking for a vertical scrolling format. And it had to do with a lot of research that Tom Bilyeu had done, looking into manga and what's popular like right now, and wanting to go with that, and still doing trade paperbacks and the collected editions as well. And kind of his thing is like he knows like that comics aren't the most popular thing right now, and he's even talking about using this hashtag that he's used before is hashtag steal this content, basically because he wants to get it in as many hands as possible.
It's so funny, man. I met Tom in at New York Comic Con this year, and he and I had a conversation, and I literally told him that exact thing. You know what I mean? Where I'm not saying he took my idea. I'm sure there's a ton of smart people that tell him this too, but we talked about it. I was amazed when I asked, because I asked Tom, because I'm assuming this too, just because we both follow his content a lot. But in his coverage, when he was talking about his comics a lot, he would constantly refer to this question of why am I going to fail? He met with some of the best people in the comic book industry, right? Some of the oldies, some of the newbies, all these people, and he continued to ask them the question about why am I going to fail? So when I met Tom in New York, the first thing I asked him, I said, I'm a big fan of your content. You keep saying that you're asking this question, why are you going to fail? I'm wondering, what did they tell you? And he went on this big long spiel about all these different things in comics, and we had this awesome conversation. But I sort of conveyed to him the idea that, because I've read the Hex, what's the new one? It was at New York Comic Con, so I picked it up before he was at the booth, and I read it, and then like I met him and like talked about it. But that's exactly what I told him. I said, look, I think the way they do it in America is stupid, and I think the way they do it in England is much smarter, and I think floppies are part of the problem. This is something you and I talked about last week, right? This is
Right.
something I feel pretty strongly about. So that's crazy that he's actually doing that. And you're absolutely right. Tom wants the content out there. He does not even care about profiting off of these books. He's actually knows that the likelihood of profiting off of the comics is not good. He's trying to get the IP out there and grow the brand of Impact Theory and comics, to maybe leverage into animation and movies and things like that. So that's crazy that he's actually doing that. And it's so bizarre that we had that conversation last week as well.
Yeah, and I'm pretty interested in that too, because I know in another interview that I seen that he did, he was talking about wanting to do a Neon Future movie, and they were in production, or like in some stages of production of working on one. And from what I got, it looks like it may be an animated movie that they're going to make out of it, possibly.
Yeah,
Which would be great.
That would be great, like something anime style. Whew.
Yeah,
sign me up, dude. I'd be into that. But let's talk MCU and comics, man. And here's what I think I want to do, and we could do whatever way we want to do this. But I was thinking we could mention some changes from the comics to the MCU, and then maybe discuss whether or not we think it's a better version in the MCU or a worse version. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know if you have anything right off the top. I was thinking of something I think you would want to talk about, but What's like one big change from the comics to the MCU, and whether or not you think it's good or bad?
Um, I think one of the biggest change from comics to the MCU, I would say, is probably the like kind of the tone shift where the comic books are really a little they're more than PG-13. They are. They're beyond that. And I wouldn't say they're quite R, but they go there into that territory. I think they're a little more hardcore. I think the characters are bigger than life in the comic books than they are in the movies as well. Like they're all kind of watered down. I mean, like
Yeah.
their power sets are kind of not what they are in the comic books. I mean, if you look at like Thanos, you look at Thor, you look at the Incredible Hulk. I mean, even Tony Stark himself, in the comic books, he's a much more questionable character in the
Yeah.
comic books, even than he is in the films.
Yeah, no, I'm in a total agreement about that. They do. It's weird to say that. I actually didn't consider the hardcore aspect of it, but you're right. Like comics, particularly if you look back at the 75 years, they will go places that now I think the sort of Disneyfied MCU does not necessarily want to go. And so there are some examples that are like way more hardcore in the comics than in the MCU. So I think that's a totally fair statement. The one thing that gets me the most, man, the thing that the change that irks me the most has to do with the Hulk. And it has to do with the Hulk, the angrier he gets, the more powerful he gets, right? But there's
Right.
no indication that that's a thing in the MCU. And I think that's such a missed opportunity because that is a unique thing to the Hulk. And it creates weird situations where maybe Thor is more powerful than the Hulk, but if Thor hits him or pisses him off, Hulk is going to get more powerful. And the Ang Lee movie, believe it or not, I think actually handled this aspect of the Hulk better than they have in the MCU. So that's a big one for me is the Hulk and how they have not done that, dude, like at all. And I'm just like, that's really weird. As a comic book fan, that is something that should definitely be in there. I don't know if you agree or disagree with that.
Yeah, I would highly agree with that. I mean, the closest indication we had was a little bit in the Incredible Hulk and a little bit in the first Avengers movie, and that was really about it. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that 100%. And and yeah, like I said, just those kinds of things that they do from the movies to the comics. I mean, I think it makes a big difference. I think Disney can still keep it family friendly and still push the envelope even more than they have. I think they could journey into rated R territory, and that doesn't mean they have to do a bunch of cursing or anything like that. They don't have to do outlandish amounts of violence, but I think to push that envelope a little bit more is something that I think they should do.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I think that it would, and that's another reason. Maybe Deadpool coming in can help that situation. You know what I mean? Particularly if they leave it in the R-rated setting. But yeah, I think this is going to become, especially because Marvel now has almost everything back. I think it's going to be all the more important for them to really try to diversify. Like, I'm interested to see what they do with Moon Knight. Do they push the envelope with Moon Knight? You know what I mean? Do they,
Right.
if they bring if and when hopefully they bring Punisher in, are they going to push the envelope with that? I think they could do an MCU Max kind of thing. You know what I mean? An imprint like that, and they really push it. I think, I think it's possible they would do that. We'll just see. We'll just see what Disney thinks. I mean, it's hard to, it's really hard to argue with the MCU formula at this point, even the Disneyfication of it. You know what I mean? Like it's hard to argue with that success. I'll
Yeah,
say, I'll,
I agree with that.
yeah. It's just numbers don't lie. You know what I mean? But let me throw this one at you. One of the other big changes from the comics was the creation of Ultron. Ultron is created by Hank Pym in the comics, and
Right.
there's a big, for a while when Ultron would pop up, he would always be like fighting against Hank Pym, or Hank Pym would be involved. And we don't see a lot of Hank Pym in the MCU. Michael Douglas, I think, does a good job of it, and there's a little bit. He came late in the game, basically.
Mhm.
But how do you feel about the change? Do you think it's a little bit too? I mean, like, I just want to know, what are your thoughts on it? Did you prefer it in the comics, or did you think it was okay in the MCU?
Uh, I think for the MCU, they did what they had to do to make it work. I think they just had plans that they had and wanted to do, and maybe didn't have time to execute everything. Because I mean, obviously we know that Ant-Man, Hank Pym should have been there with the Avengers from the start, but we also know that this wasn't necessarily like the traditional Avengers as we knew them in the comic books as well. So um, I think they did what they had to do. I'd rather everything been how it was in the comics. That's just me. But I actually had some thoughts and theories one day when I was sitting there thinking about, we're all sitting there wondering, Captain America and everything that he went back and did, right? When he returned all them stones and everything.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder, like the slightest little thing with Hank Pym is all it took. And if Pym went back to his lab and found those missing Pym particles back there in the 70s, I mean, imagine how that changed the future then, or imagine if that was something that had actually, say it could have happened, and that's something that affected the MCU up to this point already.
Yeah.
So, and I was thinking about that. I'm like, it makes me wonder if anything, if any of that could be stuff that they go back and eventually, with the changing of time and everything, and go back and revisit that kind of stuff. I do like the original comic stuff better though.
Yeah, and Ultron, I mean, just flatly, Ultron is, I think, better in the comics because he's just way more powerful and way more badass. I mean, I liked Spader's take. It was a little too. That's another aspect of it that was a little. I mean, I liked the film, but the fact that he was created by Tony and he sort of is Tony a little bit, like his personality. I was like, that's not really the Ultron I know from the comics. Ultron's way more brooding, crazy, villainous, all that. Um, so on that side of it, like, yeah, I think that Ultron is better in the comics, but I see why they did what they did in the MCU. But as far as your point about Hank Pym, that's a really interesting point. Is like the butterfly effects of Pym realizing those particles are gone. Does that accelerate some other plans that he has? Does he then take the particles and try to go back in time and create all this crazy stuff? There's a really cool moment in Time Runs Out where Hank Pym goes on a mission, like almost at the beginning of that, for the Avengers. He's trying to figure out what's going on, like with the incursions, and he goes on this crazy, like, going through the multiverse journey. And it's like way at the end of that run, and he pops out and he's got this like beard and he's been gone for so long. And he's essentially the one that discovered the Beyonders and discovers what they really are and brings that information back to like the Illuminati. And I'm wondering if they could do something similar with Michael Douglas, where if we do head towards Secret Wars, could we see a version of Michael Douglas, maybe from that branch universe that you're talking about, where he comes in to like sort of warn them or do something? Because I think for me, I would like Hank Pym to have a bigger role in the MCU. He's one of the geniuses. He's one of the like really smart genius level people at the top, which we've sort of lacked in the MCU, right? I mean, Reed Richards isn't around, Doctor Doom isn't around, Amadeus Cho isn't around. There's a lot of like really smart people that aren't around in the MCU yet. Hank Pym's one of them. He should be on par with them. So it would be interesting to see him sort of utilized in that way, man. Yeah, I feel you there. Are you a big Hank Pym fan from the comics, or are you like indifferent towards Hank?
I'm not like a big Hank Pym fan from the comics or anything. I will say this though. I mean, you've got me convinced, and you're actually, when you were talking there when about Tony Stark. I mean, I almost feel obligated at this point to say hashtag the Stark Sham. But
yeah,
anyway,
I was waiting. I've been waiting for it. I thought that's the first place you'd go. I thought like right away you'd be like, well, the biggest change is that Spider-Man's actually Spider-Man in the comics, and then talk about Tony. But I didn't want to lead you too much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was trying to be nice. I was trying to play nice with everybody because I know we all love Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man.
Yeah.
But I do like Hank Pym. I think because he is one of the smarter guys in the MCU, and I think he should definitely be put up there on kind of on that that scale of that pedestal, if you will, of geniuses. And unfortunately, and I know it's just because all the way the cards fell as time went on throughout the MCU that he hadn't been there the whole time anyway. When we know in reality, like he actually was there the whole time, just keeping to himself. We just never heard of him, but he had to have been out there doing something. And kind of like I was saying, like too, like I think it seems like his character type in the MCU and everything is. I think the slightest little thing would have set him off in a different direction at any one point, and those missing particles all of a sudden would have probably set some other events in place where he's like, whoa, like because if he's already untrusting of Howard Stark. I mean, I think that would only accelerate something like that, especially when we've seen, like Howard Stark at that same time period, when he was sitting there talking to Tony, even says, well, I've always pretty much done things out of self-interest, rarely for the greater good.
Yeah, no, dude, I feel you. I think that's totally fair points. Maybe we'll see it. Multiverse of Madness, I see some people saying in the chat, so you never know. That could come up later. Now, let me go into one that's a massive change that I actually think is good, and I think the MCU actually did a better job with this. And this would all be with Thanos and his motivation. In the comics, his motivation is simply to appease Mistress Death, who's like this incarnation of death. And so he's a complete and total nihilist, and he's doing everything that he's doing just to appease death. Now, the one we get in the comic books is actually the woke version of Thanos that wants to save the universe and thinks, destroying half of the universe will help save the resources and all of that stuff, right? So I actually think that version of Thanos is more compelling and more relatable than the just complete psycho nihilist from the comics. But I'm wondering what you think about that. What do you think about the big change to Thanos and his motivation?
I think the answer that I have is the one thing that nobody's gonna want to hear, and I apologize for having to say this, but men do stuff to get in girls' pants, not to save the environment.
Oh, nice. No, I'm glad you went there. You want to? Do you want to elaborate a little bit, or?
I don't really. I mean, I don't really have much else to say other than that. I mean, it makes sense in the realm of the MCU, but the change up. I mean, it's just unrealistic.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's kind of a hilarious point, that sort of motivation. I just think, like, when I was thinking about them doing Thanos, I was just like, dude, it's going to be so hard for him to be a relatable villain because he's so, like, he just really doesn't care. He just doesn't care about any of that stuff. And then the whole situation with death, even though, like, I don't know, the Infinity Gauntlet is such a special comic, and, like, that the art and the writing, and it's so old school, like it just has this really kind of older feel to it, and somehow I love it all. But there's some really weird stuff in that comic, you know what I mean, where like Mistress Death won't even talk to him, and then he's like, well, screw you, I don't even care about you, and all this stuff, but he's like still trying to appease her. And then like Mephisto's just there like trying to talk in his ear and stuff too. There's a lot of moments in that comic that are literally just people messing with Thanos and him just being like just a weird character about all of it. So I don't know. For me, I like that. I like the MCU version of it, but I think that you're totally fair. Yeah. The simping Thanos from the comics was maybe a little more relatable to some people out there.
Yeah, I think, I mean, they made it work, and it was actually a cool thing what they did too, also, because I mean really thinking about those motivations, I mean, it doesn't make for an interesting storyline, honestly, but I mean that is kind of what it is. And also we still got that line in there from the Avengers movie that to court what is it to challenge them is to court death.
Yeah.
And he kind of looks back and grins. and we still don't know that maybe that's not what his intentions were in the first place. I mean, maybe that was it, and maybe along the way, other things happened as well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I a lot of people were thinking that like Hela was going to take that place and be sort of like the Mistress Death to Thanos, and that would be kind of
Yeah.
interesting, to see like a sort of bad guy power couple like that. I think that could be really cool. Let me bring up another change from the comics that I think a lot of people don't actually know about, and I think it's another example where the MCU actually improves on a comic book thing. So in the comic books, Bucky Barnes is not actually a childhood friend of Steve Rogers. In the comic books, Bucky meets Steve after he's already established as Captain America. And then, of course, they form a bond and a friendship after that, and they're brothers in arms, with, all of their adventures during the World War and all of that. But he's actually not childhood friends with Bucky Barnes. Now,
Right.
the MCU version of this, I think, just plays so much better, particularly with the way they take the Bucky character and the way they do the reveal and the relationship between Steve and Bucky and the whole Winter Soldier thing. I think it's much better. But I'm wondering if you have any thoughts about that.
No, I think you're absolutely right there. And yeah, because like it seems like in the comic books, like I wouldn't say it was quite a Batman and Robin situation, but it seemed like Bucky was that younger kid sidekick that he met in the military, and they formed that bond and went on and worked together. I do think what they did in the MCU was better. Now, again, the only thing that I think is bad is that the toning down they have to do of just the violence and stuff that happens in comic books with these kinds of characters. But yeah, I think Winter Soldier has definitely been handled really well in the MCU, and making them that childhood friends definitely adds I think a better dynamic to the two. Certainly.
Yeah, dude.
Certainly.
Yeah, no, I'm just like I was like thinking about that. I was like, dude, that's one that they really nailed, And it's a small change, really, but it's just a really smart change, and it's another reason why I'm so interested in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because like Sam and Bucky have this obvious admiration for Steve, and like I'm sure it's going to be a little bit weird for Bucky because he's a man out of time as well, and like Steve was one of the last people that he could relate to and talk about that with. They're like over 100 years old and shit, right? So it's like now that's going to be gone from him, and I think it's just a nice little piece of flavor to have sort of on top of that whole situation. But the last one I have on my list, man, is like the obvious depowering of Thor.
Yeah.
Thor in the comics is so insanely powerful, and there are a lot of different examples where the Avengers are doing stuff and their plan involves Thor, being the big gun, and doing absolutely ridiculous stuff. And the MCU like completely neuters him. And I'm not a huge fan of it. I understand, I think, why they did it in the story. But I think that if anything, I always like to see how that dynamic was handled in the comics between a character that is so obviously more powerful than the rest of them, and yet he still listens to Tony and Steve sometimes, and then is utilized in really, really crazy, interesting ways, man. I know I always go to like Hickman's stuff because it's just like my favorite time period in comics, but I don't know if you remember when they go to the Builder's planet and Thor sends Mjolnir around the sun of that galaxy, and he's sitting there and he's having this conversation with the Builder, and then Mjolnir comes around the fucking sun and comes in and obliterates that Builder, and then because of that, then they have like surprise attacks on them, and then they fight the Builders and stuff like that. And there's just like examples of that where Thor is Thor. I mean, what do you think, man? Like, am I crazy here, or he's like super down powered, right?
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, he's way depowered. Like him and Hulk, they've done a lot of disservice to as far as that depowering thing. Because yeah, like you were saying earlier with the Hulk, the madder he gets, the stronger he gets. Yeah, and Thor, Thor the same thing. Like just all the things that he can do, and obviously just some of the other little changes that they've done with his character. But I think that is one of the bigger things overall is just kind of how they've depowered him, and they've done that to done that to several characters in the MCU, and I get it because they have to kind of ground them a little bit. They have to be able to convey on screen that like some of these other like regular like human characters can hang with some of these gods and
Right.
everything, if you will. But yeah, it is kind of a shame, and I get they do what they got to do, I guess. But yeah, it is kind of sad, and it would be great if they would, at least pay it off at some points where you see somebody out of their own natural power be able to, kick some ass.
Yeah, and I would say, with him getting that sort of lightning power, whether it's Thor Force or Odin Force, they don't really ever explain fully what is going on there.
Right.
But that was sort of a step in the right direction. And then Stormbreaker is, of course, really powerful. I will be very interested to see what goes on with him in Thor 4 and beyond. I think it's pretty interesting that Thor might be one of the OG Avengers that actually sticks around for a while. I don't know if I would have anticipated that before Ragnarok happening, but it's pretty interesting. So maybe he'll get his due now because Stormbreaker is a very powerful weapon. It sort of brings him to a closer comic book Thor, version or whatever. But yeah, I mean, suffice it to say, guys, Thor is very strong in the comics, and it's kind of a bummer that he's not that strong anymore. I'm going to pop up the Q&A dilly-dally graphic, and we'll go into Q&A. I know, Trinity, you're probably going to have to get out of here in a little bit to get your stream going on. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I don't know if there's any like maybe last-minute things you wanna go over, or do you want anything you want to plug before you get out of here?
Not really. I just got some content been working on. Going to be doing, like I said, there was a couple of comic books that I went out and bought. They're just on digital right now. So if you're okay with digital, go out and check out some books. DC's been putting out some books. I know, like I said, Neon Future just came out from Impact Theory Comics. A lot of people have been still putting out books. So I got Hawkman, going to be doing a review on that. Hawkman 23. I also bought this novel that Michael Morisi did for DC as well, about Dick Grayson.
Interesting.
I can't remember what the name of it is right off the top of my head, but it released yesterday as well. I'm going to be reading Neon Future. We'll have some of those reviews coming up. And then also I am going to be working on some more videos for recapping the Avengers standoff, Assault on Pleasant Hill, and kind of recapping all that. And I'm going to eventually do a video, kind of how I think that might relate to what's going on in the MCU now and what we might be possibly seeing coming up in the future.
Awesome, man. Definitely go check out Second Street Marvel, guys. Of course, we have the stream right after this. Trinity will be over there. And make sure you subscribe to his channel and check out some of his content that's coming up with those comics. That stuff sounds pretty interesting to me. So thanks a lot for being here, man. And everybody will see you soon on your stream, all right?
Yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Of
you all
course.
have a good one.
Take care, brother. All right, everybody. We're going to get into Q&A. It's Q&A time. Drop those questions. Let me know what you're thinking. We'll go for probably like 10, 15 more minutes here. What do you guys think about some of those changes from the comics? Pretty interesting stuff, man. How many of you knew about that Bucky thing? I found that to be pretty interesting. Oh, my goodness. Chet, blowing my ears out with that music, brother. DC is crap, says Thomas Clark. I don't know. I like DC. I know. Everybody thinks I don't like DC. No, I like DC. And that Apocalypse War, I want to watch it. Hopefully I can find some time to watch it today. Honestly, can't believe how busy I am right now. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I'm going to try to sneak away and watch that movie later. Jonathan says, so you're telling me they nerfed everyone? Pretty much. They pretty much nerfed almost everyone. Social Distance Warrior. I got a new name, Josh. That's awesome, man. That's a good name. I've never been a Marvel collector. I'm a DC dude. Learned a lot of new stuff today. Well, happy to do that for you, Star Wars Santa. Answer Owen's question. What's Owen's question? I didn't see it. Sorry. What's Owen's question? Let's see here. Can I find it on here? Could Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. final season lead into Sword? I highly doubt that, my friend. I highly doubt that. I think the dealy-dally is that Marvel is going to downplay the connective tissue to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Look, I'm sorry, but everything that came before from Marvel Television, everything, I'm saying everything, it's gone. Charlie Cox will not be Daredevil. You will not see those characters coming in. I mean, you will, but they'll be totally new. There'll be no connective tissue anymore focused on for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It's all gone, guys. You could have the debate on whether or not Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is canon. I think that it's... I just don't. I just don't consider it canon anymore at all. Yeah, I know that it's like a one-way street. It's very similar to the way that they will consider the Sony stuff. Is it canon? Depends on how you feel about it. I'm not saying... Look, I know Godfather. If Godfather's still watching, I know Godfather loves Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. If you love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and in your head it's canon, then it's canon. But as far as from the perspective of Marvel Studios, I do not think they're going to do anything to tie into that. So no, I do not think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will tie. I could be wrong. But that's my feeling on it, is that no. Is Chadwick Boseman losing his damn mind? I don't know. Are you referring to his photo where he just looks really skinny and stuff like that? I don't know. I'll know much about Chadwick. I wish him well. I hope he's doing well. You know what I mean? Black Panther 2 is a ways off. He can still bulk up for that. So, yeah. Flatbrush says Vincent D'Onofrio was perfectly cast. I agree. He was. It's a shame that we won't see him. You know what would be crazy? Here's something really crazy. What do you guys think about this? What if Sony used Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin in their universe? I don't know if they even can. Chadwick is training for a samurai movie? That sounds dope. Like Afro Samurai? Sign me the F up. That sounds cool. Y'all need some assistance from Rogue here. Yeah? Hey, I'm into it. Let's do a community stream where we recast the Defenders and Inhumans. Let's do it. We'll do it Saturday. This Saturday, it's official. We're recasting the Defenders and the Inhumans. This Saturday, noon Eastern Standard Time. The first and only known black samurai in history. I do not know. I don't know that history. I would love to know that history. That's interesting stuff. I'd be into that. Cool. I'll look into that, man. That sounds awesome. Josh in the Rave would be hilarious. I mean, here's what I'll say about that. When I was in college, we were gonna do a series of videos, and we're gonna start like a thing called stereotypical white boy dancing. And we were gonna put on all these pop songs, and then I would do like stereotypically bad white boy dancing. And my friend, who was black, we were gonna cut like to him, and him just disapprovingly nodding. And that was the thing we were going to do back in the day. But that would be realized in a rave. If I were to be at a rave, I would be stereotypically white boy dancing at a rave. When do you think Monica Rambeau will get her powers? So I believe she will have them in a separate universe that could be either created or discovered by Wanda in WandaVision. I believe that is the way they will do it. Saturday. The good old Vine days. Yeah, we were going to do something like that. Yeah. African Samurai Yasuke? Dude, I'm definitely looking that up. That's awesome. I love feudal Japan and Japanese art and culture, and I would love to learn more about that. And it sounds like it's a real thing. That's really cool, man. African samurais, I'm into it. Why does everything Skrulls related seem to flow through Captain Marvel? That's a good question, brother. I don't know. I mean, the Skrulls were a big part of Far From Home in a sort of way, right? So that's not really related to Captain Marvel. But I do see your point, and maybe they will be more overarching, later on. I think the truth is Feige wanted to, like I always tell you guys, Feige's really smart at giving everybody their toys. And so he wanted something for people that aren't necessarily big fans of Captain Marvel. He wanted to give them some toys when they went and saw Captain Marvel. Now, I was like the child that was like, thanks, I hate it. And I got my Skrull good guy toy, and I said, the version I remember, they were bad guys, Feige. And I threw my toys. I've since gotten over it, and I can enjoy the movie a lot more. By the way, if you think Captain Marvel is a totally garbage heap of a film, I think you're wrong. I think it's way better than people said, and it's way better than I remembered. Once I got past the good guys Skrull thing, it's a good, fun action movie. It's fine. Captain Marvel's the worst shit I ever seen. No, it's not. No, it isn't. Gray says, I loved Captain Marvel. Ken Cologne, our social media meme master extraordinaire, he loved Captain Marvel as well. And he loves Brie Larson. And by the way, what's up with all these people saying Brie Larson can't act just because she played a version of Carol that was stiff? She doesn't have memories. Like, we want to just act like the rest of Brie Larson's career didn't happen. I mean, I don't want to like go there and start like, throwing all this fuel on the fire and making people freak out and all this shit. It's like, motherfucker, you're wrong. You think Brie Larson can't act? Have you never watched any of her other stuff? She's a really good actress. Ooh, Burke the Nerd with the shots fired says mid-tier Marvel greater than anything DC. Somebody wake Tara up. Oh man, if Tara's on, executive producer Tara was in this chat, woo, baby, she'd be upset at that comment, Burke the Nerd. And I'd never say that I agree with that. I'd never make a definitive statement like that, especially given my reputation for being a DC hater. I really like Man of Steel too, Adam. By the way, Adam, you want to come on the show tomorrow? I'd love to have you on the show tomorrow, Adam. I don't know what you're doing, but it'd be great to have you on the show tomorrow, if you're okay with that. I should probably just hit you up about these things privately and not do it while we're live streaming, but I'd love to have you on the show. Wonder Woman is maybe an exception. I really like Wonder Woman. The third act really does fall apart, but I love the first two acts so damn much, dude. The Amazonians are so cool, or the Amazons, I guess as they're called. They are so cool in that movie. I loved it, dude. I was eating that shit up. I saw that movie 3 or 4 times in theaters. I really liked that movie. Man of Steel to me is brilliant. Brilliant. I think Watchmen is brilliant. I think, Batman v Superman, Justice League, they're just like a special kind of trash. In my opinion, of course. But yeah. Toilet Room says Wonder Woman was a reskinned Captain America First Avenger. Fight me! I mean, that's fair. Brie Larson better than Gal Gadot? That's a tough one. I like both of those ladies. And if they can inspire more female nerds out there, I'm all for it. You know, a lot of this discussion, gets co-opted into this whole political situation, which I think is stupid. The truth is, man, like, come on, man. If you're a nerd, don't you want more nerdy females? Don't you want more females in the nerdy world? You know what I mean? Like, that's my whole thing. Like, what are you doing? X-Men still leaving bad taste in audiences' mouths? Yeah, I think so. By the way, did you guys see the report we did yesterday about the New Mutants possibly coming to digital and that whole thing with Amazon? I found it to be pretty interesting. I would be very into New Mutants on digital. We could do a watch party. And you guys could watch what a wuss I am with scary movies. When I watch scary movies, I'm like, ah! This'll be me most of the time. That's what you'll see a lot of if we do a watch through of scary movies. And then sometimes I'll like contort my face a little bit, like that. Ooh, you got a hot take? I will check that out, Adam. I will check that out, my friend. They want $25. WTF? I mean, $25 is pretty rough. I won't lie to you. His hot take was on point? Oh, damn. Co-signing Adam from Fanjecture's hot take, Star Wars Santa? Now I definitely have to watch it. Normally I'm going to start trying to get into the habit of I want to put Adam's stream on as I'm getting ready for the show and engaging sort of in that way. The truth is, though, I get like really distracted. There's a lot I have to take care of when I'm doing it, and it's tough for me because I have this ADD personality. Emmett Kennedy says, Josh, are you concerned about Sony's Spider-Man films? If Venom, while fun, was plugged into the MCU, it would be 24th of 25 behind Hulk. Interesting take. Am I personally concerned? Here's the thing. I am a fan of what I think they could do with the Sony Marvel Universe. And I liked the first Venom movie. Here's the thing. It's not a great movie, but it flies on the wings of Eddie Brock and Venom's relationship, which I find quite good. And I really like it. And I think the visual effects aren't bad either. So Venom seemed to me like a good start. And so I have been, within this community, I have been more optimistic about it than a lot of the fans we have. A lot of the people we like are really not okay with. They don't trust Sony at all. You know what I mean? And I get that. I understand. I try to look at the positive side. I think it's good, and I'm interested to see what they do with it. But then they name their universe like that, and it's like, oh, man. Oh, no. Please don't do it. But you know what? Here's the thing, too. It's a win-win for us. It doesn't matter. Think about it. It's a win-win for us fans. Best case scenario, Sony makes incredible Spider-Man movies. Does a really cool universe, Venom, Carnage, Sinister Six, maybe Null down the line, maybe Dracula, crazy cool stuff they could do. Morbius, it's dope. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, they make horrible movies that don't make any money, and then they get Spider-Man back. So even the worst case scenario is still a win for us fans. Den of Nerds quarantine cosplay contest. We got to get it going. We got to get it going on. We got to get it going on. I want to do it. Josh, are you related to George Lucas? You look like him with the quarantine hair right now. Oh, man. Don't even... Do we have to talk about the quarantine hair? Do we have to talk about it? Is this what we got to do now? I have to do the show like that? Is this what we're doing? Oh, man, if my producers are watching, they're probably like, what are you doing? Here's how we're going to do the rest of the show now because of this comment. This is what we're doing. How do I look? How's that looking? Whew! That's nice. This might be my new look now. Whew! Do the rest of the show like this. Is Trinity streaming? This is the new look, ladies and gentlemen. This is the new look. Looks fluffy. Yeah, it's a little fluffy. Trinity jealous AF. You think if Brie apologized to white guys, you think they'd ease up off her a little? I don't think she needs to apologize. I think she just needs to be more mindful of what she's saying. And honestly, here's my advice. If I was like a PR person and I got, like, let's say I got hired. Okay, we'll end on this question because I think it's a fair question. Let's say if, let's say I was hired. Brie Larson brought me in and said, you know, look, there's this problem, there's this issue. I actually think what I would tell her is, have you tried not being such a bitch? Have you tried not being so snarky, defensive, on guard all the time? Because I think actually more of the damage to Brie was done in some of those interviews that are so awkward with her in the Avengers cast. And look, I didn't make videos about that. I'm not like one to just go over and over the things that she's doing and try to monetize it and try to blow it up. I didn't do that, guys. I'm just answering the question that I was just asked. So fucking relax, okay? But while we're on this subject, I would just say, hey, man, like, why don't you try to be nicer, more positive, and just generally more likable? It's not even what she said. It's how she said it. Capisci? You know? I don't think she needs to apologize for shit. She didn't say anything that crazy. It's the way she said it. And if anything, she could apologize for how she said it. And, like, my opinion, dude, is just lean into being a cool nerd and just be a cool nerd. Celebrate the dopeness of the thing. Like, there were things where she's like, what is that, a personal attack? Or, like, those interviews where she's playing up the fact that they don't like her. It's all really weird. It's, like, so weird. No, just be cool. Can we just be cool? Just be a cool nerd. Have fun with it. And that's it. Problem solved. Because, you know, that's my opinion. That's just my opinion. But I'm just some guy on the internet with quarantine hair. Uh-oh. Somebody's live talking about Pirates of the Caribbean. I can't wait to hear Trinity's take on this. Okay, we're going to call it there, folks. I'm going to drop the link to Trinity's stream into the chat. Boom. There's the link to Trinity's chat, man. Let's see what he's saying. Everybody head over there. Let's see what he's saying about the new Pirates of the Caribbean. Female-centric. it won't be that bad. It's all good. All right, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow, where hopefully I can bring on Adam. If not, I'll have Adam on as soon as I can. Yeah, I'll reach out to you soon, brother. You guys have a good rest of your day. Lots of crazy videos coming out today about Marvel stuff. Check back to the main channel periodically, and we're going to call it there. I hope you are having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next